General, the other thing is that you will be 70 years old by the time the next elections will be approaching or older. Over these years, and this I challenge you as an adult who has seen power, who's been through Nigeria since almost 1960 when Nigeria was created. Have you been able to find any younger person that you can trust all these years? That you had grown to the point that you can say, well, these are the kind of guys we want to hand the baton to, and you have to go back and run again for office. What do you think about this? When are the older generation of people going to train people that they can hand over power to? Is this a sign that you have lost, or there's never been confidence in the younger generation of people?
No, not at all. But as you very well know, it is the party. It's the only platform. And don't forget there are over 60 registered political parties, 63 or 64. So people have vast choice out of this to go in and use it as platform. But whoever choose to join the CPC and aspire to the highest office is welcome. Irrespective of age, since the Constitution does not put any constraint on age limit to participate to seek for elective office from councillor to the presidency.
When you started the CPC and we watched the last election and see how millions of people follow you anytime you're campaigning in the north. But in the south, you have very limited presence, and that is why people kept saying that even if you had, if the elections were free and fair, you're likely not to have won the election. What do you think was responsible for your very partial success in the south? Don't you think people see you as the leader of a northern party, and generally you have not enough acceptance down south? And what do you think was responsible for that?
Well, it is true that there seems to have been more audience coming to see me and listen to me in the north than in the south. But I don't think you have followed me closely in the south as well. I doubt if you are in Ibadan. I doubt if you are in Lagos. I doubt if you are in Imo State, where we have to, in fact, hold our lectures in a seminary because some of the state administrations wouldn't allow us to have venues in spite of early requests and so on. So I think the idea that I was not in the south, nobody will listen to me from the south. The question of crowd is relative. I agree, and I have mentioned it now. But I can say that of all the presidential candidates, I'm the one who covered the country the last 3 times more than any individual presidential candidate. And I believe this is a record that people know about it. So it's relative. Certainly more people seem to have attended my lectures and so on in the south. But I was not neglected by the south.
So, General, you believe that the election in 2007 was rigged against your person. In fact, all the elections that you have participated in, you have gone to court to challenge them, and we followed, since we started Sahara Reporters, we followed 2 of them in which we saw the judiciary and the role they play. But this last election is being adjudged even by the international community, according to them, to be free and fair. But you don't think it was free and fair, and you've challenged it. Can you break it down to Nigerians, areas where and how you thought this election was rigged against you in 2011 April elections?
Well, I mentioned it, and I've spoken with the international observer team. In some of the geopolitical zones, especially the south-south and the southeast, and a lot of Nigerian papers publish it, that in some of the local governments and polling units. People were not allowed. People were not allowed to, to participate in the elections. And I'm sure you can recall that INEC said they have registered 73.5 million Nigerians, from polling unit to wards to local government to the states. That was why when we challenged the election in 25 states that they were not conducted according to law, when Justice Salabi then was heading the tribunal, we went and we got forensic specialists. We demanded data to check that those who were registered, the 73.5 million people, we say we want access to data so that we can show those who registered were those that voted. Under Justice Salami, he said we are right and it's legal. We should get it. But then reasons were developed and Salami was removed and another judge was put there who reverses the decision taken by the same court and said it against national security. How can on a single item Nigeria spend about 100 billion naira, and then legally when we ask for the data to convince the court and Nigerians that the election were not free and fair, we are denied the offense against security. Whose security?
General, let's go to looking at Nigeria in the last 13 years or so, since 1999, when democracy came back, and you've been an active participant in the democratic process. How would you assess Nigeria? Do you think Nigeria has moved forward in any way or gone backward, or it's just static? How do you assess Nigeria in the last 13, our democracy in the last 13 years?
Well, my participation started from 2002, but I have made several statements elsewhere that what we earned as a nation from 1999 to now is much more than what we earned as foreign exchange. In fact, since at any particular time, is more than what we earned at any particular time, in fact, from 1914 to then. These figures, you can cross-check with the central bank and the records. And what happened even from 1999 to now? We used to have Nigerian Airways. We used to have Nigerian Shipping Line. We used to have Nigerian Airways, Shipping Line, Nigerian Railways. And those were not too bad. The water transportation, the road transportation, where are they now? When you compare with the money we get, how was it that Nigerian successive governments were able, when they inherited this infrastructure, they couldn't maintain it, they destroyed it, and they couldn't build it anymore. We used to have 4 refineries. We used to refine more than 400,000 barrels a day. We used to export 100,000 barrels a day of refined products after satisfying home market. We ended up as net importers, and nobody can account, how the so-called oil subsidy is being financed. And anybody interested in Nigerian security and economy would have listened to the National Assembly's hearing on subsidy, no talk of pension system and so on. So,
General, yes. Yes, for someone with a military background, and if you were the head of state of Nigeria today, the president of Nigeria today from April 2011 till now, what would you have done to Boko Haram to put an end to the kind of insecurity, the kind of killing and destruction of Nigeria that's being carried out in the name of religion right now? What would you have done conclusively to put an end to this militant group?
It's not done in the name of religion. No religion allowed hurting the innocent. No religion. So what Boko Haram is doing is not in the name of religion. It's got nothing to do with religion.
So what are they doing? I mean, they are bombing churches, they're killing, and they're releasing records, videos saying, no, we're doing this in the name of Allah. You see those things
yes,
from time to time.
They are claiming it, but it's not religious. And there are 7 clear cases where those who have been caught trying to bomb churches, carrying weapons across all bombs, were Christians and were not Northerners.
So do you remember those ones?
I said there are 3 Boko Harams. I made this statement. The original Boko Haram, which is stated in Borno State, because their leader was killed, extrajudicial killing, they set up to take revenge, and they were killing learned Islamic teachers. They were killing law enforcement agencies. They were killing politicians. Those that identified to be responsible with killing their leader. But then there are crooks, thieves, and armed robbers, that have been breaking banks, bombing banks, killing policemen, and taking money from boats or banks in citing of the. Now the question of assassinations, abductions, looking for money is then more in the south now than in the north, in spite of Boko Haram.
So, but what would you do with these 3 categories of Boko Haram that you mentioned? How would you have dealt with them as the president of Nigeria, regardless of whether they're killing in revenge or breaking banks and being sponsored by politicians? One thing is clear: they are breaching the security of the country. They're committing crime. What would you have done conclusively, differently from what the current regime is doing?
It's a problem of social justice. If we want to survive as a nation, a viable one, we have to do something extremely serious about corruption. Now, Nigerians now know, from what I have just referred earlier on, from the hearings on petroleum subsidy and the pension scheme scam. How, in which country, where people are dying in queue to receive their legitimate benefits after serving the country for 15 to 35 years, were dying in queue while a syndicate formed and was stealing that money, and literally nothing is happening. And look at the petroleum industry scam. All the institutions that are supposed to account for it, none of them could do it. None of them could. They couldn't arrive at the same figure. And in any department, in any ministry in this country, you cannot fault the financial and the administrative instruction, the auditing and so on. All this paperwork is just pushed aside and people are just doing whatever they like. So unless we go back to social justice, the survival of this country and a sustained development is going to be extremely in doubt.
So how do we get back there? Is going back to social justice, voting for Buhari to be president? And if we do, what will Buhari do to start addressing the social injustice in our society right away, as you have noted them? For example, how would you deal with the petroleum scam? How would you deal with Boko Haram? How would you deal with the pension scam? Would you have the courage, for example, to put people in jail who, for example, would have sponsored your election? Let's assume that they sponsored you to come to power. Do you have that courage to throw them in jail?
Why not? I did it under a different system before.
Okay.
And it's possible. The important, I said, there is, you go to any ministry and you find out that there are financial and administrative instruction, there are question of audit, and in any case, you have central bank, the Ministry of Finance, you have Auditor General's office, you have Accountant General's office, and then in its parasites, they have corresponding accounting system, and they are using consultants, to go through their books and so on. In fact, that's how the question of the corruption in NNPC and the press service is coming out, because some of the accounting firms that have the responsibility of giving accounts have shown the disparity in what gets into the government treasury and gets into other people's pockets. So what is the government waiting for?
General, let's go back to your party. Recently, last week, there was a whole crisis again engulfing the CPC. Some people said they have lost confidence in the leadership that is very close to you. And as a matter of fact, we did publish a report in which they are actually trying to kick you out of the party that you created. And it happened also while you were in the PTF. There were allegations that even though you yourself was not corrupt, there were people underneath your control that were actively participating in corruption. Is there something has to do with your aloofness that people you trust sometimes to handle some of your transactions, like in your party and PTF, are not as clean or kosher as people say you are? Because I think they call you say Gaskia, which means the man who speaks the truth. How do you assess this in terms of the fact that there's always problem underneath your feet when you organize organizations like this or head organizations?
Well, the PTF one is history, but nothing was found against the PTF per se when we left. There was nothing, absolutely. Even the people, it ended up with the people who were brought other to investigate what we did in PTF. They are those that ended up in jail, some of them at least, because in trying to pay for jobs done, there were various Nigerian companies, they were demanding money, and some of them were caught red-handed. Now, to go back to CPC, what they have done is illegal. And Nigerians that are interested, in our political processes know it. We are virtually, to my understanding, going about under 5 documents. Let me put it that way. The most important one, of course, is the 1999 Constitution, out of which we have got the INEC Act. And the INEC Act gives INEC the power to register political association into political parties if they are satisfied with their constitution and manifesto. And then whoever wants anything have to stand election from a political party that is registered, from councillor, as I said, to the presidency. And then for each election, there is electoral act. There is electoral act for 2002 for elections 2003. 2006 for the election of 2007, 2010 for 2011 election. So, as I kept on saying, Nigeria documented its laws and regulations, but these are ignored. How can anybody come out after a convention and an executive of a party, according to the electoral act, is elected, and then some people just burst into the media houses and say they have suspended them?
So who do you think is behind this?
Once in Nigeria allows this type of, we are wasting our time on issues that are stopping us from making progress, both economically and politically.
General, let me ask you about some of the remarks you make at public activities that you've been engaged in that have become very controversial. And this is time to ask you directly. During the 2011 election, it was alleged that you make pronouncements, encouraging your supporters to engage in violence. You mentioned the word blood, that people should defend their votes, and if they rig, if they rig, you kill. And recently, there was another statement you made that if they rig the next election, it will be the dog and the baboon will be soaked in blood. And this has been interpreted to mean that you are setting your supporters up for another huge political violence after the elections that are coming up, in which you have now indicated interest. What exactly is it that you convey to these people, and how is it that each time you say some of these things, you speak the local language, Hausa, and when people interpret it, it looks as if you're encouraging violence, and that's why you use coded words?
Yeah, well, you can pick the Hausa one, which you don't understand, but you know that all my election campaigns have to be conducted in English, because in Nigeria, that's the language we share. Mm-hmm. And I need everybody's vote, whether Hausa speaking, Efik speaking, Yoruba speaking, Igbo speaking, or whatever. So I don't think you are quite right there. But the question of asking my supporters to do violence, no, what I said is not more than what the president and other party leaders have said, that they must make sure their votes count. And of course, I said it in Hausa, Akasa, Asere, Araka, Atapa, is to make sure, like I made an example. If you go to market, when people put their wares, they keep their eyes on it. Even if a fly landed or lands on it, they will see it. So I say they will watch their votes like that. And then our agents, according to the prescribed electoral act, they should be allowed, they will make sure they accompany our boxes to collation centers, from local governments upwards, and then they will make sure our votes count. That I have said it, and every politician have said it in this country. Now the last one, talking about baboon and the dog, and people make their own interpretations. I think only those that know the Hausa culture or are in it that can understand it. As I explained, I was visited by a group and from Niger State, and they read an address to me, but there are so many of them that came, so I came out and addressed them, and I looked at the crowd, they are Hausa speaking. So to get my message across, I spoke to them in Hausa. I said, look at what happened to us in 2003, 2007, 2011, and in spite of us, see what happened in Kogi, Adamawa, Sokoto, and other subsequent by-elections. That means the PDP have no intention of justice. That is free, fair, credible election.
With General Muhammadu Buhari, and talking about a lot of things going on in Nigeria. We try to get him back, and we have the Minister of Information, who is at Sahara, also on standby to talk to Sahara reporters. We lost you for a second there, because as you can imagine, a lot of interest in what you're saying. People are calling in left and right from all over the world. Thank you for your patience. I just wanted to go, because before we lost you, I want you to go back to, let's talk about the Goodluck Jonathan regime. It's 1 year old now in power. What's your assessment of Goodluck Jonathan, his regime?
Unfortunately, fortunately, Nigerians now are very well informed, mainly for communication, both radio and electronic and print.
Yes.
The insecurity in the country is intolerable. All this question about unemployment is a consequences of restlessness of young men who have passed through university or who even are dropouts. There is no way this country can be secure without getting employment for the youth, whether they have been to school or not. It's a government responsibility. And the question of the assassinations, the abductions, and whether you call it Boko Haram or frustrated militants or whoever is getting away. Nobody is going to bring his money into this country and invest. People who need oil may invest offshore, which will be much easier to defend and so on. But to come on land in Nigeria now and invest money, I think the government is joking. And unless the security is improved, we are going to get overwhelmed by unemployed youth, and God knows what will happen. And this year is a terrible year. No security. And when there is no security, all other things will just collapse. And this is the position we are in now.
So, what do you think? Because it looks as if we are under this regime until 2015. How do we move forward? I mean, one person asked us today, said, can we ask General Buhari to please try to work with Goodluck Jonathan? I mean, it's a very interesting question. I can't answer it for you. I have my own answers. But, can you actually work with the current system in any way until 2005? This is the most stupid question I can ever ask anybody.
Well, this is personal. Can I work with Mr. President? Well, let me see how those in the petroleum and pension scheme have been dealt with. If this government shows that it can punish whoever steals, whoever takes public funds from the treasury, whether it is in a local government, state, or in the center, yes. And if the government asks me maybe to do something, I may do it. But
on that note, General, if they ask you to punish the guys who stole the money, would you be happy to be the chairman of like a committee or a body of government that can actually punish this guy? Would you be happy to that? Because you're known to be a guy who doesn't love indiscipline. You were popular because you set up a war against indiscipline. Would you do that? Would you help the government to punish the thieves?
We have a system. As we discussed much earlier, there is consultants, accounting consultants, who are giving virtually a daily return on what petroleum product is brought, what is sold, and so on. And those documents are available, and the courts are there. So there's no question of any committee. Just use the documentary evidence and prosecute them and jail them or shoot them. Whatever the law says.
That's interesting. So 2015, you were throwing in your heart into the ring, and you're going to be against Goodluck Jonathan. And one thing I noticed and documented was that it was the most contentious election preparation that I've ever seen. It was a lot of fighting words. How is it going to be this time around? What should Nigerians expect? Is it going to be about issues? Or, I don't think in the history of Nigeria any election has ever divided the country more than the war in terms of, North versus South, Christian versus Muslims, and all kinds of cleavages were created around that election. What do you think was responsible for that, and how do we get past that and talk about issues in the next elections?
Well, we have already discussed it, if you don't mind. Okay. It's a question of insecurity. Insecurity leading to unemployment. Factories are closed, infrastructure has collapsed, social services have collapsed, no education, no health care, and the money we are getting cannot be traced other than to the accounts of organized syndicates that are stealing the country through and through. This is the problem. Nigerians know it. They are living in it. So the problem for the next election is very clear. It revolves around security. Without security, nothing happens. People will not come and open their factories. People will not be employed. How do they earn a living? How do they eat?
Well, General Buhari, we just have to thank you for taking our time to talk to us today. And since you are going to be politically around, you trust that you hear from us a lot. We'll be following you again and following your pronouncements and your campaigns, and following your party. We would love to ask you more questions, but we have to do it at another time when we get to. Thank you so much for coming, and we wish you the best as you go for the fourth time. If finally you decide to do so, let me ask you the last question. If within your party it's decided that maybe you are too old and you're not going to be fitting the party as a candidate, would you accept and support the candidate chosen if there is internal democracy within the party that another candidate should go on your behalf? Like if they choose me as your party candidate to run for election, would you support me?
I am a very law-abiding person. I have told you we came from the Constitution to INEC Act to Electoral Acts and so on. Whatever my party does as a platform, I assure you I will be pleased about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, General. Hey, viewers, has been General Muhammadu Buhari of the Congress for Progressive Change on Sahara TV.